Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Trade Show. Tonight, we have got lots of deals to go over, plenty involving some quarterbacks who have been in the news this past week. We've got some veteran wide receivers being dealt and some trades involving some rebuilding teams, so we can give you an idea of what you could look to acquire if you're trying to start up a rebuild right now, or maybe just call it a retool. So there's a little bit of a difference, and we could kind of get into that and go over that as well. But let's get it fired off with one of the quarterbacks in the news recently, and that would be J.J. McCarthy, basically getting the nod as the quarterback in Minnesota. Here we have in my bottom line league, Matt English giving up J.J. McCarthy and acquiring Anthony Richardson and the 111 in this deal. Now, this is a 12-team start 10 Superflex tight end premium league. Matt English is looking to just get into contention possibly this year, more so for 2026, but this is sort of a productive struggle or house money type season for him. Now, McCarthy was somebody who he acquired actually for me last year for Justin Herbert and a first, McCarthy and a first for Justin Herbert. So he had acquired Justin Herbert when he down tiered from Joe Burrow. So this is becoming quite the landscape or cascade trade, if you will, for Joe Burrow. So what it comes down to is basically he's down tiered from Joe Burrow to Anthony Richardson plus 3 firsts. So, hey, doesn't seem like too bad of a deal for Matt English's side. On the other end of the spectrum, I don't hate it. Don't mind getting out on the Anthony Richardson train here. The Colts went out and signed Sam Darnold this week. Excuse me. Daniel Jones this week. I got the wrong old Vikings quarterback wrong there. Needed that. Whew. So Daniel Jones goes to Indianapolis to be Anthony Richardson's backup. And I'm sure, as we all know, we can expect to see something from Daniel Jones this season. We just don't know how or when that happens. Does Anthony Richardson finally take the reins and take the bull by the horns there in Indy? I know that he's been using Josh Allen's old quarterbacks coach for some guidance in throwing the football this offseason. And hey, there was a time where we all thought Josh Allen would never get a second contract. So look, I mean, you just need to go back and watch that Buffalo at Houston wildcard weekend game and the playoffs, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But as far as this deal goes, I kind of like it from both ends. I really don't hate it from Matt's side. So I'm going to lean his side a little bit. But, I mean, if McCarthy becomes, a legit top 10 quarterback, obviously he's going to end up probably winning this side. Now, with the 111, that buys Matt some insurance here. If Richardson fails, at least he's still getting a good solid pick here. The 111, I love, as I talked about earlier this week, that falls right into the second mega tier. So I call it, you got Ashton Genty up top, but then picks 2 through 13 right now, to me, are all just one huge tier. I'm sure after the landing spots are determined from the NFL draft, we can probably dissect it down a little bit. I mean, if you want to go ahead and dissect it down and put Cam Ward a tier ahead of Shedeur Sanders and a couple of the running backs, along with Tyler Warren up into a tier above Colston Loveland, fine with me. But as far as I'm concerned, those two are so close. You don't need to tear them apart. I love all the picks 2 through 13. So I'm looking for any kind of 2-for-1s there. If I can down tier from, the 102, 103, 104 and move back and get a couple of those picks, I'm willing to heavily consider those kind of deals right now. But yeah, like this deal from both sides. Good trade here. And this is what, I think this is what you can expect to pay for McCarthy, though, right now, considering he's been given the keys to the Vikings kingdom here. And, when you're throwing to Jefferson, Hawk, Addison, you got Aaron Jones re-signed there. I mean, I don't see any reason that the Vikings aren't a top 10 offense again. And if you're putting the numbers together, that means that J.J. McCarthy is going to produce. Just look at it. I did the same thing when I saw that Patrick Mahomes took over for the Chiefs from Alex Smith. I was looking at Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and I'm like, these guys still are going to put up numbers. I don't care who's throwing the ball. So Patrick Mahomes is probably going to smash this year. And I wasn't predicting 50 touchdown passes, but, I was just saying the guy's going to produce, and that's what I look at with McCarthy. But, all right. So moving along, we've got another deal involving, let's see here. Yeah, another deal involving quarterback, and that one is in one of our more interesting leagues. Now, this league I absolutely love. We did it last year. It's our 53-man league. And, let me out here. I'm going to have to bring it up a different way. But it's a 53-man league. And by that, I mean 53-man roster. We start 11 offense and 11 defensive players. And it's best ball. So you don't have to worry about actually setting the lineup. But it is one hell of a league, totally entertaining, makes you pay attention to both sides of the ball. But not really. I mean, there's so many guys out there running around. You just kind of have fun with it, and it's a blast, honestly. Now, this deal went down earlier just yesterday. I was going to say, was it this morning or yesterday? It's been a long day. We did 2 roster reviews this morning, Matt and I, and so it's been quite the day. All right, now I'm ready to show you here. Here we go. All right. There we are. So this one's pretty simple. Sam Darnold for the 205. Now, some of you might look at it and be like, wow, that's quite a steal. But remember, this is a 53-man league where we start 11 IDP players, and the scoring is monsters for the defense. You get 10 points a sack, 10 points an interception, and full point tight end premium. So lots of points scored in this league. But the point being is that there's probably going to be about 4 or 5 defensive players at least taken in the first round of our rookie draft. Like Abdul Carter is going to be a blue chip asset in this league. So, the 205 is pretty similar to maybe, I don't know, 109, 110 in a regular Superflex tight end premium league. So that about, that's what you can expect to pay for Sam Darnold, a late first right now. With the hype of the deal just being struck, him going to Seattle. And then I don't know that the MVS signing is the needle that moves him into a first round player. But I think that what we see here is Darnold hooking up with JSN is going to be quite the tandem there. Darnold's got a 3-year contract that gives him some stability, gives you stability if you trade for Darnold. So I like the deal. Matt wanted a quarterback added to his room if we break this down, looking at his team here quickly. Oh, where is it? There. Matt's team in this league. Let's see here. Where is it? There we go. So he's got Kyler. He has JSN, so that even makes more sense. Where is his? There's his bench. Yeah, Kyler, Bryce Young, and now Sam Darnold. So that really solidifies his QB room again in a best ball format. So it's not like he's got to be picking in a lineup league. This would make it quite difficult, with Kyler, Bryce Young, and Sam Darnold to choose week to week. But in a best ball, you're just getting the best, points, whoever scores the most. So Matt building up his quarterback room there. I like it. Hergot didn't really need Sam Darnold, so I can understand it from his angle as well. All right. Next up, we got one other deal from that league. So let's get that one. That one was Havdi dealing with Hergot as well. So Hergot getting into the action here twice. And this one was more of a minor deal. I like it from Hergot's perspective, gaining the 402 for Dameon Pierce and Christian Watson, who's going to get him a 0 every week pretty much. Watson may be back later in the season, and I understand the gamble, but the 402 is probably worth somewhere around a late second, early third in a regular league. So, I don't hate it. Dameon Pierce in a best ball format is pretty, I don't know. I don't want to say he's useless, but, he's borderline rosterable in this format because 53-man rosters, you've got to have at least like half your guys defensive players. So it really leaves you thin at the running back position. We'll put it that way. You don't want to be carrying like 10 plus running backs on your team. You really got to roster your team similar to a regular NFL team. Now, we don't carry offensive linemen, so we do have a few more wide receivers and running backs than a regular NFL league. But yeah, point being, Dameon Pierce is barely rosterable. So I kind of like the 402 side actually, but who's to say? We haven't done our first rookie draft. We're doing a 7-round rookie draft in this league. So we'll see how that turns up. Kind of everybody's playing as they go here. So I don't mind Havdi taking a shot on Christian Watson either. Watson's a guy who can really explode in a best ball format. So yeah, for a 4th rounder, that's kind of worth the gamble as well. Hergot just wanted to load up on some draft capital and free up some roster spots here. So next up, we're going to touch on, so we hit the quarterbacks. Now I want to get to some veteran wide receivers, and I'll just go ahead and hit up the trade that I completed earlier today, and that was in my Crash and Smash League. This is a 12-team best ball, start 12 league, and we do have just 3 IDPs thrown into this one. They really don't matter too much, but here's the deal here. I traded with Havdi. Havdi was quite active today, and so he went ahead and threw me his 27-second. We went back and forth. He only wanted to give me a third. I was like, fine, I'll go out to 27. I was, again, just looking to free up some roster spots. I'm pretty loaded at wide receiver in this league, so I was willing to get rid of Michael Pittman, who I'm a little scared of this year. If Pittman were to get traded or Richardson goes down and then Daniel Jones is throwing him the ball, I think I'd see him in a better light. But because I love the player, Michael Pittman in himself is a very solid wide receiver. I've always compared him kind of to Keenan Allen. But man, just the situation with Richardson, I just don't buy into it, and I'm ready to get off this train here. Let somebody else deal with the mess, I guess. There's just too much talent there in Indy being wasted away right now with the accuracy problems of Anthony Richardson. So if you can get out this offseason right now of Richardson's targets, I don't mind it at all for fair value draft capital. Like, that's the way to do it. Just go out, offer a fair trade. Don't try and swindle somebody on the Colts receivers. Like, nobody's buying into Colts receivers right now. I had to really beg Javdi to do this one by going all the way out to the 27th, the 2027 year. But again, I was just looking to free up the roster spots. I mean, that's something that is super important here that I want to emphasize at this time of the year. We just had a bunch of guys sign in free agency. We didn't have any big blockbuster signings, right? But, and we just had Miles Sanders signing with the Dallas Cowboys. Breaking news here. Woo. So now the Cowboys have a backfield of Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders to back up Ashton Genty, right? Now, Jerry is really cutting it close. Like, he is going dirt cheap. He's probably going to bring Zeke back, and it's going to be the Javonte, Miles Sanders, Ezekiel Elliott show. So gross. So gross. Hopefully they at least get some linemen there to block for Dak this year, because I don't know. But hey, Rico banged out 1,000 yards somehow behind it last year. It's somebody's got to tote the rock, right? Point being, guys like Miles Sanders are getting signed. Dudes like Javonte Williams. This is the time, if you've got them on your roster, to get out there and get something for them, right? You've more than likely, in most of your leagues, you've got some draft capital, third, fourths, right? And you probably kind of want to make some of those picks this year, because the third round especially, I think there's a lot of running backs that could potentially hit this year. And so it's not a year where you're just looking to kick all your picks forward, and you need roster space for that. So go ahead. The guys who've signed, Raheem Mostert just signed with the Raiders. Like, it's gross. I get it, but they're in the news right now. If you were trying to sell me Raheem Mostert 2 months ago, I'd be like, why? Right? Miles Sanders, who? But now Miles Sanders is going to be talked about all day tomorrow, that he's in the Cowboys backfield, and that means he's on America's team, and people are going to see him every week pretty much. So that's my point. Don't just ignore this time of the year right now because no blockbuster trades have been made. I mean, I guess you could call DK's semi-blockbuster deal. Sam Darnold and Justin Fields signing are big deals as well, but not huge, nothing earth-shattering, right? So don't throw this time period away. Try to make some moves, okay? Clear up your rosters, clean it up, get your roster construction correct. Get it built so that what draft picks you may make fit your team build. Okay, you don't know exactly who's going to be there available for you, but you can pretty much guess right now that every time you make a pick in this draft, you're going to be looking at possibly a running back. Okay, there's running backs available on every level of the draft board here. You can kind of see a pocket forming with the tight ends, the second tier of tight ends in Harold Fannin, Mason Taylor, and Elijah Arroyo. Those three are could be tiered together, and they're roughly valued around the early third round, I guess you could say, maybe late second. But you've got running backs going right ahead of them, running backs going right behind them, and then a few wide receivers sprinkled in there. So you kind of have an idea of what positions you're going to be drafting. So clean up the roster, make some space for them if you do feel like you want to make some of these draft picks. Otherwise, package those picks up and make something happen. I mean, you don't have to wait till draft day to get your roster construction set. Okay. You can if you want, but if you're sitting on the clock and the rest of your league sees that you don't have any roster space for this guy, they're not gonna blow you away with an offer for your draft pick, right? All right, so that was Michael Pittman. Now we got a deal for let's see, we got a Mike Evans deal. Yeah, that's my boy. Let's get one in for Mike. That was in my Turtle League. All right. Here we go. This one happened about a week ago. Here we go. Havdi again, dealing with Foss Boss, getting into the action. There it is. So Havdi went ahead and got rid of Evans and acquired Trey Benson and the 303. So value-wise, this looks pretty solid, okay? But I'm going to tell you why I like the Foss Boss side. I'm not buying into Trey Benson. I guess I just see James Conner another year hanging on to this job. But the potential is there, so don't hate it from Havdi's side. But, dude, Mike Evans is going to produce. Like, I know one of these years his production is going to fall off, but if it doesn't, you're looking at another 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns from Evans. And that's what you're going to get. Good effort, week in, week out. And so I like the Foss Boss side of this one. I don't hate it for Havdi, but I can understand that angle. I guess if you look at the rosters, maybe you can get a better idea. Havdi's roster. Let's bring it up here quick. So Havdi, if we look, okay, so he has James Conner, so that's a reason why he went for the handcuff there in his backfield. He's got Davante Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Olave, Keon Coleman, Tyron Tracy, Mari Cooper, Steph Diggs. Yeah, so, I mean, he was getting a little old at wide receiver, so he had to get rid of one of them, and this was one way to do it. Mari Cooper and Stephon Diggs aren't exactly desirable assets right now. Mari Cooper is still without a team. Stephon Diggs is injured and without a team, so Mike Evans is the one that somebody would want, right? And if you waited till draft day, the 303 is going to be a little more expensive, right? So, yeah, this one makes more sense now from Havdi's perspective. I think this is a win-win trade for both sides. Like the deal a lot. Especially more now that I looked at the context here of the team. So sometimes you got to do that when you're evaluating these deals. You can't just throw somebody under the bus without looking at the actual whole context of a trade, right? Okay. And then we've got, let me think here. I've got one more involving, that was my Lemmy's Dynasty trade. And I want to show you this trade, not to beat up on Grid FE here, or act like I pulled one over here, but okay. So Davante Adams just signed with the Rams for 2 years, of course. Here I was able to acquire Davante Adams for a contender and just gave up Tank Bigsby and Kendre Miller. Okay. So Obviously, I love this deal. From my perspective, I was able to get off of 2 running backs who were backups, who even could get vultured from their backup roles this year. But there's a chance that those teams don't draft a running back. And, Tank Bigsby, I could see telling yourself a story with Tank Bigsby, okay? You always want to be able to tell yourself a story, right? Got to look at the positive side that could happen, right? So Tank Bigsby, he's got probably a 20 to 25% chance of being the leading rusher for Jacksonville this year, right? He's, generally speaking, he's behind ETN still. But if you look at the backfield that Liam Cohen put together in Tampa, you'd see that Tank Bigsby is more of the kind of running back that Bucky Irving is. And Travis Etienne is kind of the Rashad White there. Now, that could all get thrown under if the, Jags decide to draft Travion Henderson in the second round, or I don't know, they could grab Ollie Gordon in the 4th round and he ends up leading the team, right? So there's a lot of options there with Jacksonville. I wanted to get out of the situation. Tank Bigsby and Kendre Miller, both guys that I drafted in the 2nd round of that Bijan draft, and all those dudes in that draft that were 2nd round running backs, Zach Charbonnet included, like they're all nothing more than backup running backs right now, and they all could potentially get vultured this year out of their backup role because the talent is just so evident in this running back class. And just about, like I've harped over and over and over again here, just about every team in the NFL is going to draft a running back at some point in this draft. And you can't tell me that a team, just because they have Kenny Walker and Zach Charbonnet, that they're not going to draft a running back in, say, the 3rd round, okay? Teams that favor the running back position, they like to draft running backs for a reason, because they like the position more so than some other teams, okay? Dallas, everybody wants Ashton Genty to go there, but Jerry Jones has made it pretty freaking clear that he doesn't value the position. So even if he drafts a running back, it's probably going to be some dude in the 5th or 6th round. I'm just telling you right now. I think the days of Ezekiel Elliott are not there anymore. He's gone in a different direction and philosophy, the running back position. But the teams like Baltimore and Seattle, obviously, now I know Pete Carroll isn't there anymore, but then you look at the Raiders, right? Because they have Carroll now. There's certain teams that like the running back position and will continue to like it and draft running backs earlier than other teams. History repeats itself in the NFL, and you follow the coaches and you see where they go, and they tend to have the same tendencies. It's very hard to change your philosophy as a coach, especially if you've been successful doing it, okay? And Pete Carroll's had a lot of success. So, now Carroll, he's had success both ways. Like, he drafted Rashad Penny in the 1st round one year and Chris Carson late in that same draft. And who ended up being the better back, right? Chris Carson, I don't know, for all we know, could still be the back there had he not had his neck injury. But point being, he likes to draft running backs. And so that's why I mean, Ashton Genty to the Raiders at pick 6 is a very good bet, in my opinion. All right. So there we go. That's enough of the veteran wide receivers. But as you can see, there's some deals you can go out there, pretty much get a lot of the veteran wide receivers. We didn't have a Chris Godwin deal, but he's another dude you can go out there and get for a 2nd rounder. There's obviously Davante Adams. Terry McLaurin is hard to get for a second rounder right now just because he had such a successful season last year. But I would keep fighting for it. If Washington grabs a receiver in the second round or something, I wouldn't put it past them. I know they traded for Debo. Debo's another receiver you could grab for probably a late second now, if you wanted to take a gamble on him. But I'm generally talking, these should be guys that you're getting for your 4th, 5th, 6th wide receiver spots on your team. If you're trading for these guys to be your, wide receiver 1 or 2 or 3, then you're probably going to be in a little trouble depending on somebody like this. But, go ahead and see what Amari Cooper is right now. If you can get Amari Cooper because he hasn't gotten a team yet for a 3rd, you're going to get a deal. Keenan Allen, again, another guy. He's probably going to produce wherever he goes. The guy knows how to get open and demand targets. I know he's old, but he's the same age as he was the same draft class as Mike Evans and Davante Adams. Okay. So they're just, it was a really good wide receiver class, right? Just like the 2018 or 2017 running back class was really good. Okay. The guys hung out because they're really good players. Really good players tend to play longer in the league. All right. Moving along here. What else have we got for you in store? Let's see. All right. So we did that. Okay. So got a couple of rebuilding trades for you now. So this one has to do with Steve and the roster that we did a roster review on earlier. And now I don't know if he quite did what we were really going after, but it's not terrible. I like the idea at least. So let's go bring up this one. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So this is the not first or last league. And Steve, we did his roster review and determined basically that he's probably going to have a tough time contending in the 2025 season. Not because his team is terrible, but it is best ball, and 2 of his best assets at wide receiver in Tank Dell and Christian Watson are both going to be out most of the season, right? Now, they're not elite wide receivers, but in best ball, when he's built his team around the tight end and running back and quarterback position, and at wide receiver, he's depending on these home run threats to get him big spike weeks, and 2 of those guys are out, especially one who is Tank Dell, that he has CJ Stroud at quarterback. It really, really hinders his potential for spike weeks during the season. So it really, and on top of that, Tank Dell and Christian Watson are very difficult to trade away right now. Okay, nobody wants them because Tank Dell, especially, you're not going to get any points. And in best ball, there's no taxi squad, no IR. So they just eat up a 0 for you. And those are like the worst. That's like the worst thing you can have on a best ball team. So that's why we started looking at the contending basically for the 2026 season. Okay. Now he's not completely out of it, and he is loaded at tight end. He has Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and I believe it was Brendan Strange, but also had Sam LaPorta, right? And so part of the reason he didn't have that great of a wide receiver room is because he drafted Sam LaPorta early last year in the startup. So here we go. He gives up Sam LaPorta to Fossboss. Now, I like this deal from Fossboss's angle, definitely, because he's only giving up a 27 first here. Okay, that's 2 years down the road. He can easily work his way into trading for that back or another 27 first, whatever. He's got 2 years to work on that. So Fossboss definitely helps himself out here, acquiring Sam LaPorta, top 3 dynasty tight end. LaPorta, I'd put him right behind Bowers and McBride at number 3. And all he had to give up in return was, like I said, the 27 first, Marvin Mims, and the 306, right? But I love it from Steve's angle in not so much the 27 first, just the fact that it is a first. I really wish we would have been able to get a 26 first, but Fossboss doesn't have his own 26 first anymore, so that's probably why he didn't do it. But from a value gaining perspective, I like it for Steve. And he's building for the 26 and 27 seasons. And by doing something like this, he can really build a monster team rather than just a team that can kind of compete. Okay. So I like it from that perspective. He's still got Likely and Andrews and, like I said, Brandon Strange there, who technically right now is the starter at tight end in Jacksonville. So, yeah, I like this deal. This is a win-win deal from both sides. Okay, Steve had to give in a little just to make something happen there. Get out of so much value tied into the tight end room. I think he had too much value there. And so this helps out his wide receiver room. Marvin Mims is a great best ball wide receiver there. Okay. So good job, both the guys in this deal. All right. And we had one more rebuilding trade that I did. And this one I wanted to show because sometimes you can get hung up a little too much on keeping your draft picks and, wanting to wait until the day of the draft and make your trade then. But sometimes the opportunity presents itself early. Now, could I have gotten more had I waited? Possibly. But here's a team that I'm in major rebuild on, okay? And I brought this upon myself. I really, for 2-3 years there, I was really hanging on thin. I had guys like Kelsey and some older expiring assets, McCarthy, CMC. I think I had Henry on this team as well. So, it just got to all of my receivers died off. And so I'm in a major rebuild right now. Now I do have JSN and a bunch of firsts next year. So what I'm actually trying to build up is whatever draft capital I get this year, I may end up just kicking towards next year and looking at next year being the draft that I really attack hard. Okay. Because I don't want to get too many points this year. I was only able to earn I think I got the 102. Okay. Which isn't a terrible pick, especially one quarterback. I mean, this year's class isn't much different, one quarterback versus a super flex or 2 quarterback league anyway. There's only a couple of quarterbacks that are decent in value. You've got a lot of talent at the running back and tight end positions, a lot of high-end talent at the wide receiver positions, not so much later on in the drafts. But the point being here, this is a 16-team, 1 quarterback league. So the 202 is pick 18 in a regular 12-team league. So that's like the 206. All right. So a mid-second for the 303, which would be pick 35 or a late third. All right. But I'm getting a 26 second back. Again, like I said, I'm trying to attack that 26 class. Fantasy Reaper was not good either this last year. So that 26 second could very well be the 202 next year. All right. So basically I'm adding on 2/3. This is a squad where I literally only have, let me show you this roster that I'm sporting right now in this league. It's atrocious, but I have got lots of draft capital. There you can see I'm sitting there stuck with Aaron Rodgers. I've got absolute trash cans at running back. I do have JSN and Pickens, but, good luck selling George Pickens right now, right? I've got Coker and Hollywood Brown. I should probably try and shop Hollywood right now. But after that, it's absolutely garbage. Okay. Stone Smart, he signed. They haven't updated him yet. Just signed with the Jets, taking over for Tyler Conklin there, the NYJs. And I've got Drake May. I forgot about that. Do have Drake May as my quarterback of the future. But still stuck with Rodgers, just kind of waiting for him to sign somewhere. And then maybe if he goes to Pittsburgh, I can hook up, could sell the stack, right? But anyway, my point is, you see then my draft picks down here. I had, let's go back down there. There. So I've got the 102 and 115, 212, 216. You know, not so many picks here, but then 1, 2, 3, 4 firsts in 26. And now the Reapers 26 seconds. So I'll have 5 good picks next year. And if I can maybe convert the 115 into a first, possibly, that would be even better. So yeah, like I don't feel like I have to trade Pickens or JSN because I'm still going to have a garbage enough team that I'm going to get a nice early pick next year. So I don't want to, if I want to actually contend by, 27, I got to have some bodies in place here, right? JSN and Pickens are still plenty young enough that by 27, they still should be reliable. At least I hope so with Pickens. He's a guy who could get himself kicked out of the league. I don't know. But at the same time, he's kind of a tough asset to trade for full value. And I don't want to give away value at this point in the rebuild. So that's some of the rebuilding tips I've got. In that league, I am truly in a rebuild. Okay. I had pushed it too far with the veterans in trying to contend. And I had some guys that just died out on my roster, and that's unfortunate when it happens. But sometimes, guys with like Travis Kelce, if you've got him, you got to play him, and you're never going to get back in return in a trade the value that he actually has on your roster. Same with McCaffrey or Derrick Henry right now. It's really tough to get back what their value is to your contending roster. So unless you're able to hit on a few, like one league, I've got Henry and McCaffrey, and I didn't have a lot of draft capital, but I was fortunate enough to hit on Bucky Irving last year as an early 4th round pick. I mean, the guy slid to the 4th. I had to take him. I didn't even really like Bucky Irving, honestly. As a Tampa fan, I looked at him as, Rashad White's backup. But sometimes you're wrong in a good way. And that's what happened there with Bucky Irving. And so, yeah, I might get lucky there. But that's why you take some dart throws, even with you when you've got a solid veteran contending roster. It's good to take dart throws on the bottom of your bench because they do hit once in a while. You could hit on a Tyron Tracy. You could hit on, Jalen McMillan. I don't know if you call him a hit yet, but he looks pretty solid. But that's the point. You want to have some good dart throws to have out there. All right. So hopefully you like the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Support the Birdhouse community. That's how we get to do more shows and get them out there and be able to put all this beautiful content out here, like those roster reviews. If you're looking for a roster review, you can join the Patreon now and you get a free roster review for joining. It's just $3 a month. You get all of our rookie rankings, dynasty rankings, some additional content in there. And you also can ask me any questions you want about those teams for all season. I'll be available to you. Also, subscribing to the show. If you are the 100th subscriber to the Birdhouse, I will also do a free roster review. We're at 95 right now. Let's get to 100. We're really pushing for it. So if you're watching, just smash that like button. Thank you for tuning in this evening. And remember, never stop working.